Welcome to Marriott MBA Today. I'm Desiree Allard, and today we have Dr. Gove Allen with us. He's well known for his formal robes that he wears around campus and also for the MBA 615 class that he teaches. Welcome.
Thank you, Desiree. It's nice to be here.
Awesome. Professor, I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, sure. I got my degree here from Brigham Young University back in the mid-90s. I actually got a master's and a bachelor's degree in accounting. Then I went into industry for 3 years, started a computer training and consulting business, grew that business up to about 15 employees, and then sold the business and went back to get my PhD, which I did at the University of Minnesota. After that, I took my first professorship at Tulane University in New Orleans and was there for about 5 years up through Hurricane Katrina, at which point my wife let me know that it was time to move on, and I couldn't have agreed more. So it happened that they had a job here at BYU at about that time, and so I came here since been here since 2007.
Perfect. So you've been in a lot of classes.
Yes. In fact, the class that we're talking about, MBA 614, was developed at Tulane University. There was a student who came to me and said, I'd really like to learn how to program in VBA, and that's the language that you program with in Excel, and it happened that was one of the things that I did a lot of consulting on back before I went to get my doctorate. And so I said, well, of all the people you could have asked, I'm probably the guy. And so we designed the class there and really worked on it for a few years there, and have been kind of continuing it, improving it steadily since.
Perfect. So, so some of the skills that students will be taught will be those VBA skills. Yeah,
so VBA is it's the regular computer programming language that's built into Excel. I mean, most folks who use Excel, they think, well, we got formulas and functions, and we do some charts and pivot tables. But probably the most powerful feature of it is one that the vast majority of the folks don't even know that it exists, and it's this VBA programming language. If they have some exposure to it, they've probably heard of it called as macros in VBA. But really we can do so much more than just record code and then play it back, and that's normally what we think of when we do a macro. So in the class, it really is a class that teaches people to be computer programmers in the context of Excel. And so we do the kind of the introductory computer programming stuff, variables, arrays, functions, control logic, loops, this kind of stuff. But we do it all in the context of Excel, which allows people to become really, really powerful programmers very quickly because they've got all of the tools of Excel at their disposal, and then they're just using this programming language to kind of glue things together, and very quickly they can become very proficient and do amazing things in Excel.
So automate all those skills. What's some of the feedback that you've gotten from students that have taken that class in the past?
One of the things that students really enjoy is that we will, in the class, we teach them how to get data off of like publicly available websites and even password protected websites. So if I've got some model in Excel, say I need to have information on several characteristics of a particular stock. I need to know what its earning per share is, and what the volume traded is, and what the current price is. I need these various inputs to be able to do whatever calculations I want to on my model. Instead of having to import those through some download and import process or typing it in, we can just push the button and we can have Excel interact directly with the web servers to bring that data in and then run the model. And so that's one of the things that students really like. And we do a lot of things in the area of bringing external data in. So, getting data off of password-protected websites is one. Directly interacting with corporate database servers is another one. And really just the ability to say, I've got some process in Excel that is time-intensive and repetitive, prone to error, then we can automate that into a process where you just push the button and then Excel does all of the dirty work to make that happen.
So very applicable for people that are going on internships that are doing a lot of repetitive work.
In fact, if I have one regret, it's that we really can't offer the class in such a way that most MBA students can take it during their first year. So of course, that first semester is pretty well locked down, and then there's only a few seats available during the second semester. And so, but one of the big feedbacks I get is that when folks show up on their internship and they've got the ability to program in Excel, that they really absolutely amaze their supervisors, their coworkers, and I've had many students tell me that they got the job offer primarily because of the skills that they had in VBA.
That's awesome. Just such a great way to differentiate their skills.
Oh, it really is.
Perfect.
And there really are not that many universities, and certainly not that many MBA programs that offer a class like this. I think we're really at an interesting time kind of in the history of Excel and VBA, because we're at the point where many employers are now recognizing the great value and the power that someone who has these VBA skills brings to their company. But there's still not very many programs that are teaching it, and so people who have the skill coming out of college they have a real advantage, and they've really differentiated themselves.
Yeah. Well, when is this class taught? What semesters?
So it's taught both in the fall and in the winter semesters. It's not taught at all during spring and summer. There's one section that runs during the fall, and then I teach the two sections that run during the winter.
Okay, so if students want to have you as a professor, they would take it winter.
That's right, winter term.
Perfect.
Yeah, and in fact, it's cross-listed, so it's the same course, but it's listed as MBA 614 and IS 520.
Okay.
Both are called Spreadsheet Automation and Modeling, something like that.
Perfect. Well, you are famous for wearing your robes to class and around campus. Would you mind telling us a little bit about them?
Sure, yeah, the robe. It turns out that it used to be that all professors wore the robes all the time. Really up until about the 1940s, that was just kind of standard professor attire. And then kind of after World War II, the professor had said, why are we wearing these things? They're itchy and they're hot and they don't look that great. And you know what, I think fashion changes, and I'm thinking that if the robe is back in fashion, for me, and so it turns out that this robe is far and away the most expensive garment that I own. And I purchased it when I got my, completed my PhD, thinking I'm going to be a professor. I'll have to wear the robe, one or two times a year regularly, and a lot of professors don't even own a robe. They'll rent them just like the students do to go to graduation. And I thought, I don't really want to rent it. And so, I bought it, and it cost over $600. And then one day, the accountant in me was thinking, let's see, if I have a 30-year career and I wear this once or twice a year, it seems like it cost me something close to $40 every time I put this on. And I thought, if I just wore it a little more often, I'd get better value out of it. Thinking like an accountant. And come to find out, the students just loved it. And I had a student ask me one day on the second day of class, after I'd worn it on the first day, he said, hey, where's the robe? And I said, I was just going to wear it on the first day of class. And he goes, oh, I really liked the robe. I said, really? I like the robe too. And polled the class. The whole class liked the robe, and ever since I've worn the robe every day to class.
Perfect. Well, you make us feel a little bit more professional, like we're at Oxford or something.
Yeah, they still do wear the robes at Oxford.
Yes, they do. It's kind of like Hogwarts or something.
I guess so.
Well, kind of taking a step back from school, you are the president of the Colonial Heritage Foundation.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, let me tell you a little bit about that.
That'd be great.
The Colonial Heritage Foundation is a 501c3. It's a public charity that's dedicated to the preservation of the culture, history, skills, and values of America's founding period. And so what the foundation really started around a large, well, at the time it wasn't large, but it was a kind of a colonial heritage festival. It was a celebration of really kind of the founding period of our country. That event happens every 4th of July, and this year will be the 3rd, 4th, and 5th at the Sarah Park in Orem. Yeah. It's the largest colonial living and reenactment event in the western United States, with right around 50,000 people attending every year. And we have kind of set up there like blacksmith, set up there blacksmithing, a cooper there who's making barrels, a cobbler there making shoes. I actually got started in it as the baker, so I'm there baking bread in the colonial tradition with a wood-fired oven and kind of the whole thing. And it really is, it's really a lot of fun, but that event happens for the purpose of communicating what we call the founding values of America. So when we talk to a group of people and we ask them, what does it mean to be an American? They'll usually come up with something like, well, it means you're an American citizen. And I think, yeah, that's true, but we have this really interesting word in our language, un-American, and every country doesn't have an analogous word. To my knowledge, it doesn't mean anything to say you're un-Irish or you're un-Spanish. I heard one time someone said it was really un-Canadian, and what does that mean, un-Canadian? He said, I don't know, just kind of not like a Canadian. And so when we ask, what does it mean to be an American in the opposite sense that it means to be un-American, then we kind of get these furrowed brows and they have to think about it for a minute. And the funny thing is, you really can't do something un-American unless you're an American. And so it's kind of this kind of strange thing.
Yeah.
And we can usually come up with, in that discussion, the first thing that normally comes up is freedom. It's a shared value that defines us as a people, because America isn't really defined by its geographic region. or by an ethnic group, as many countries are. For America, it's really about these shared values, and one that we all identify with is this idea of freedom or liberty or some variation of the American dream. Usually with a little more work, folks will come up with this idea of justice. That as Americans, we have a responsibility to behave justly to other people, and we have a right to receive justice in our affairs. And that's usually about it. That's about all that we can come up with. But if we go back to the founding time, when our country started, there were more values that were generally accepted as kind of what it means to be an American. One of them comes right out of our Declaration of Independence. It's the term divine providence. It's a word that's totally gone from our public discussion. The very last line of the Declaration of Independence says, "And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor." That divine providence is a word that most of us don't even is a term that most of us don't even understand. And it really is a pretty complex idea. It means, number one, we believe that there is a God. Number two, we believe that he intervenes in the lives of men and in the affairs of nations. And there's some interesting things that follow from that. One of them is that in order to be able to qualify for God's intervention in the affairs of our nation, that we as Americans have a responsibility to live lives of private virtue, making moral choices in our everyday lives so that we'll qualify for God to intervene on our behalf so that he will fight our battles for us. And the second thing that follows really interesting, kind of naturally from that, is that I have a responsibility as an American to find out what is God's mission for me. What does he want me to do to help bring about his work on the earth? These are ideas that I think the vast majority of Americans still believe, and they think, yeah, that's right. But almost no one identifies that as part of a shared national value. And there's about 3 or 4 others that were shared values at the time of our founding, that the Colonial Heritage Foundation is kind of dedicated to helping people understand, learn about, and to really get them to feel, yeah, that is what it means to be an American. And we hope that when they leave our main event during the summer, that they'll walk away from it not just saying, yeah, we didn't have a great founding and learn all these kind of skills really interesting, and boy, they don't make it like they used to. We hope that they'll also be saying, I'm going to be a better American now. And now that I know something about these kind of what we call the lost founding values, I know something about what I need to do to be a better American.
Yeah, so this event's not just a celebration, but it's more going back to those home values and
yeah, it really is.
Trying to help people identify with them. If people wanted to get involved with that, or attend, where would they find more information? Sure,
the foundation has a website. It's colonialheritage.org.
Yeah.
And if they go there, there'll be some general information about the foundation, but if they can follow the link then that talks about the reenactments, they'll see a link that goes right to the Colonial Heritage Festival. And there's a kind of a page there that shows a lot of the artisans and the educators, the different exhibits that are there. And so they could always send an email to me. In fact, the email that I have for the foundation is Gove, my first name, Gove, at colonialheritage.org, and I would be more than happy to receive inquiries about that.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Allen, for coming in, and thank you for watching this edition of MBA Marriott Today.